Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. The title is The Future is Already Here. And for some that would be good news. For some people, they might feel they're missing it. I thought about in this episode to speak about time, and again, I don't know what it is about this week. There's something I think I'm just internally missing about the concept of time, that I keep going back to it. But anyways, in tonight's talk, I will look into the future. First, I ask myself, okay, who does time relate to? That means if there is such a thing as time, and if all these are being wondered to see where the future is going to go, how's it going to head, how's it going to open its eyes. So the future to us now is a possibility of how we are in time right now. So the future is a privilege of a creature in time. It is the allowance of those permitted to notice their change. You see, the human species has a strange permission, a strange authorization compared to all other species, I find. And that is, out of all the creatures in nature, we get to remember ourselves in the most sophisticated way. You know, some people speak about the child, the human child's ability of language acquisition. You know, for the longest time, there was this view that it's a blank slate. And I'm not even suggesting this in the sense of something metaphysically echoing on. Let's say you were a Buddhist and you were wondering how a child acquires language or how a child speaks. So in language acquisition, it was seen as a blank slate, but in certain cultures it wasn't, in certain contexts. Then it metaphysically wasn't a blank slate, but then it wasn't a blank slate in the sense that certain develops. This is current. This is, I would say, in 2020, now that we're alive, to the work and contribution of many linguistic professors, not just one. The idea is that language is hardwired. That means we don't enter the world in a blank slate. The ability for the usage of language is already embedded in the creature. So it's as if a genetical explanation for the ability of a creature, upon being conscious, to use the content in consciousness. You know, I feel it's like this. It's like, first there has to be someone in the room. That explains the mind's presence, and it's a mystery. The mind is in the room. Then, once there's someone in the room, after the person requires that attention in the room, needs to see the room, and then can establish a relationship with the room. Now, if you were to look at the human being, we are like in a room, but in a giant existential room, and now we cannot see the edges of our room. And I feel this is what gives the intelligence a permission to fathom, to wonder, to deviate, to, in some sense, to become parallel. To, another word I use, multidimensionalize. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is that time, a creature in time, The future is in the room of time, and what is in the room of time is the unknown mind of the being. Unknown in the sense that somebody would say that, I don't know who it was, but there was a person who said, you have no clue who your great ancestors were, right? What kind of way they behaved, what personality they had, how they even appeared in public and whatnot. But then your great ancestors' genetics are in you. That means when I look in the mirror, at least I see I can totally tell that we are born in the lives of those who were born before us. It is very obvious, you know. We are a continuity, and continuation can never be alone. That means at least there needs to be two reference points of two separate moments. Excuse me. Where I'm trying to go with this is I'm saying if we acquire language, and whether that's genetically hardwired or it comes from another dimensional angle we don't have access to, if we were to look at the concept of time, it would lead to like as if time is hardwired in us. You know how we came to see time. You know, it wasn't even though we say concepts were kind of like a discovery, but it could be that's the danger of really connecting everything, a connecting subjective expression to just the genetics. Anyways, so time, it starts when there is consciousness in the room, and consciousness either moves in the room or the room moves. And currently we're in a world that the world underneath our feet changes, but we also change. Now, if the sense of self changes faster than the world, I feel there is time, and that's how the idea of the future can exist in our conscious control. That means think of all of human life being the speed of two dimensions, and their speed dictates what happens. So if the world changes faster than yourself, the world is like the ultimate self. You know, it's like the main self. So right now, if suddenly my environment started to, like, it's like stepping on somewhere and what was underneath your feet is changing instantly. It's as if it was changing faster, if the world was changing faster than me, there would be nowhere to stand. You know, but if I was changing faster than the world, then the world will have no self, you know? So right now it's a strange ratio of like 50% self moves the world and 50% the world moves the self. If we increase the speed of the self, that would be godhood, self-godhood. If the world overwhelms you, I've had moments in my life where regardless of my decision making, just how the karma of the world went forth, just how the moment went forth, things happened faster than I could do anything about it. You know, and in those moments, what can a person do? It's like you're either watching the world die in front of you or your sense of self die in front of you. And when I say die, I mean change, right? Fear of an objective position taken for granted is really what mortality reminds us of. So right now, myself is moving faster than the world, and it's interpreting the world. If the world changed before I could talk about it, let's say I want to say something about the world, then right when I was about to say that, that thing changed, then it's like there's nothing to talk about. So it could be that being a creature in a world is a certain speed of space to itself. I also had this idea that, okay, so I'm saying there was a past, right now is the present, what's going to happen in the future. If I just zoom at the present, I can say that the present is where the past and future are arising, so that's an explanation of how the future is already here. That's one angle. Another angle I meant the title was that if you think of inventors, think of an invention. An invention is made from different dimensions, from totally different states. You know, it's like different things that have no meaning alone together join, and then they create an invention never existed before. The moment that invention is made, for example, the moment Edison made the light bulb, everybody was like, no way, we could have made the light bulb this whole time. So it was as if the future was already here. It just had to be brought. It just had to be introduced. It just had to be opened like a gift. It has to be ushered in, right? It has to be like, okay guys, make room, the future's coming. So if we see the future as the invention of the present, and there's quotes from Albert Einstein where he says, if we created time so everything doesn't happen at once, and there is a quote, for example, from the Sufi mystic Rumi. He says, you're not just a drop in the ocean, you're the entire ocean in the drop. So whether we see it all as one event, and we are like the fragmented, as if like the universe is a mirror, is mirroring one intelligence. This mirror has shattered, and we are like the shattered piece. That means that little piece, let's say a mirror breaks into pieces. Now each of those pieces are going to reflect the truth, but they reflect it at different sizes, right? So it could be that the future is here because energy has nowhere to go. Energy changes from form to form, but does it die? Does energy die? I don't think so. You know, it's like people think about human beings going to heaven. They don't say energy is going to heaven. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just fascinating. Anytime we go past the wavelength, the humanized wavelength, you're deathless in any context outside of human and creature. That means if I think of myself as space, space can't die. If I think of myself as energy, energy can't die. If I just think of myself as air, air can't die. Do you know what I mean? So there's so many ways. Like, for example, when I say air, the yogis were very keen on that. where they would attain a sort of clarity, or I would say they would remember a sort of clarity, that they would call it Mahasamadhi. When the being was ready, they would move with their breath. That means, imagine, it's not even about attachment and detachment anymore. It's as if it's as if you came, you saw, and you moved on. It's kind of like this life. I feel that's one of the most strongest psychological algorithms, where the human beings, like, okay, I could have been born anywhere in any, like, it's possibility. Right now that I'm born in this possibility, it's just like the observance of it. Sometimes it's like, you know what it is? I feel this is going to sound hilarious to some people, but like, there was this show called Lassie, and there was this kid, and like, this dog would come and bark at this kid like 3 barks, and the kid would hear a conversation, like as if the dog just gave, like a military soldier giving a report to a general. So this kid's like, this dog comes and the dog's bark, and the kid's like, what are you trying to say, boy? And then, oh my god, there's this happening, that happening, right? And so it's as if the kid it's like the kid experienced a moment where a part of nature, that dog came to him, and he's like, what is nature trying to tell me right now? And I feel that attitude is so key, that one should not love or hate life. It's not even something that can be loved or hated. I feel it's just something that could be watched, properly seen, as if you saw what it was about, you know. More than just humanization, you know. Being a human being is our ancestors were human. Now we are like neo-human, you know. The future through linear time is 1/3 of reality. It's honestly like the past, present, future are just words for another way of saying beginning, middle, end. That's it. When you look at the past, you're looking at how knowledge began, how something has meaning in accordance to how it opened in this world, how the application, program, phenomena, noumenon, whatever it was, how it started. When you look at the future, you're looking at the ends, but the ultimate ultimatum is, because we started and there was joy to starting, that means it's like people don't realize it because culture is conditioned us out of this recognition, but it is fascinating to be a human being, to experience waking up suddenly. Like, think of children's psychology, right? It's like, anybody listening to me right now, think of the earliest memory you have of yourself, or not the earliest memory, think of when your personality happened. And you're gonna notice, just like we enter a dream, we enter language. Language is a conscious dream. Language is dreaming in the day. Right now, I'm technically just vocalizing the non-stop dreaming engine of nature, you know. So I think just I'll go back to this, if there's a possibility for an invention to exist at any moment, it's just the person needs to see it. That means, imagine Edison hadn't made the light bulb and somebody like, I don't know, yesterday had just figured out you could make the light bulb. It's as if we'd realize all this time we could have done it, right? So the future, it should be seen as something where in your attention on the past and the present, it is something that is the invention of the past and the present. I think that's a cool idea, right? And we may think the invention of the past and present is like a plan, it's like a planning or even a strategy, but I would say victory requires a value system 10 times the expectation of the simplest victory. That means that's the only way I have found that I feel a person can evoke the strength for the colossal challenges of the realm. You have to see yourself beyond yourself, but attempt to see yourself so beyond yourself that who you are now is what's the term for it? Is super easy to be. Yeah. And then I would say intelligence has to do with appetite, but it has to do with the appetite of the person for truth. That's it. Because if the person does it for any other reason, if a person seeks knowledge even for the cultural program, or for something insincere or not pointed towards the universal, then the knowledge breaks down, or the knowledge possesses you. I would say there is actually 3 kinds of future. Yeah, there is 3 parallel realities to the future that I feel are accessible. So what are these? How the past is suggesting the future. This is why history is valuable to know. Even though history is written by the winners and it's his story, but just the people who pass down the stories. But what I'm saying, it's like what does the past want the future to be? That is such an important question, and this is really the conservative mentality, or the Republican mentality, based on which country you're in. And then when it comes to the future, or let me say it like this, what does the past think of the future? What does this moment in this present we feel about the future? And what does the future feel about itself, right? So when we look at the past, you can get a lot of, it's like a toolbox, endless toolbox to rebuild what is there in the moment. But the future of the past is a mirage, but it's a mirage that the future of the present requires. That means this is a strange view, but how much of our lives really depend on comparison? You know, that means if we didn't compare ourselves to anything, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't even have a sense of past, present, future. So it is remarkable how much our identities that are hovering in thin air as subjects are just comparative modes. Another way the future can already be here is if we're not going from the past. I would say, like, I don't know what I would call this inverse linear time, where instead of the past going towards the future is going towards the past. If the future goes towards the past, that explains the dissension process. What this means is it's as if like the universe reached an ultimatum point, and then from that ultimatum point is climbing down the mountain. As if an observable universe. Okay, this is becoming too hard to put into words, but one mentality from the past to the future, we are doing something. We were unconsciously being something. We consciously did something. Now we're going towards a future where we're going to consciously be something again, right? I would say if it was to come back from the future, it would be as if the universe began from a conscious point. It would be a journey from the collective unconscious towards the individual consciousness. It would be a reverse. So it would mean God is becoming man. The other view is man is going back to God, right? It's like drop goes to ocean, ocean goes to drop. You know, it's like if the drop can get itself to the river, then the river can get itself to the ocean, then the drop will realize the ocean has always been. The ocean has always been here, but it's like, how do you get to the ocean? Right now, imagine an ocean of Satchidananda, an ocean of where existence, the consciousness to existence, due to its all-pervading nature, becomes its own bliss. This is where samadhi tears find you usually. When you realize you have been the mover of life before the form, before the life form. Usually tears come, but tears without any image, any thought. You are just staring at the void, and it's as if the story, it's like language cries through your eyes, but you are not language. the future, if it is already here, means it has to be invented. And if reality wasn't linear, if we were a civilization of just artists, you know, it's as if there would be no, it's like people won't ask, what time is it? People realize they draw time. They draw energy into conclusions or subjective, all-inclusive overlays over the world. You know, I was thinking, if I ask the question, is the future already here? That would mean I would look at what would remain in the future most likely, and how is that happening now? So the challenge is, every moment we do something, that moment becomes a memory. Then the moment we can do something else, that becomes a memory. So the present is endlessly becoming the past. Now, if one can be in the present without anything from their past, and they behave in a certain way, that could be a suggestion of how they are experiencing being the memory of their future self. That means, this is one thing that I thought about it, and it was very complex. I thought, could it be that every time we blink, it's like a string we were pulling, then the string got cut, and then there's another string, the string continues to be pulled, then it gets cut again, then the string is being pulled again, and then it gets cut, right? So it's as if every blink is sending an echo of that human animated character. So it's as if every moment we are being it's kind of like the samurai would say, like in Bushido, the book of the samurai, to live and die in every moment. It feels to me that we are not even, like, it may be too soon now to truly culturally accept this, but I feel we are not a creature here. We are not the chess piece in the chessboard. We are the attention of the one in the game, playing the game. That means, could it be fathomable, humorously, that what is suffering to a temporary being is entertainment for an eternal being? Excuse me. Excuse the interruptions, guys. It's from my side. So many ways to fathom how the future is going to happen. So many ways to fathom what the person can do right now in the present. And so many ways to see your past memories from the present. That means when I ask myself, where does the content of my experience of existence come from? Like it comes from the existence. You know what it is? It's like the existence is the outline of life. Experience is coloring in this outline. But what is using experience to exist? That means if the experiencer is the brush, or existence is the let's say the canvas, experience is the brush, and the experiencer or the unknown witness, that at best can be just the invisible will. That's the way we can talk about it. And if we make it visible, we have to ascribe it to intelligence. Like that's the biggest showdown on this planet. Is the world alive or not? Biggest intellectual showdown. I'm trying to think if our biological existence is, if it's like a candle, it's like without existence there is no light. there is no light of the experiencer, there is no candle flame of the experiencer. So we need existence to have dynamism. That means if there was no matter, if this was all space, we would not know that we're beings. So we need matter. It was, sorry guys, I'm just brainstorming to myself here. Okay, if we were just space, there is no content. Because we're matter, there is content, there is thingness. So existence is needed for there to be the flame. The wax of existence, like the candle wax of existence, is needed for the candle flame of experience. But what sparked existence? What is moving existence right now? Do you know, it could be that the soul is just lit. The soul is lit up. It could be that the biology just requires a push. And it could be that the concept of the soul being in, out of the body, or there being only the soul, or instead of the spirit in the machine is in the spirit, you know. And it makes sense because experience is limited to existence. We can't experience that which doesn't exist, because then what did we experience? There's no content to it. So experience and existence, they are the same two sides of the same coin, right? But now together, these two unique dimensions, the candle flame and the wax, they create an opportunity of light. So any unknown experiencer of a known existence creates an atmosphere. So intelligence, it's not, we shouldn't say a person has, intelligence is the glow of what I'm explaining here. Unknown experience moving in known existence. It's that has a glow. Intelligence is an atmosphere. It's like a glow. But what is really burning is like, it's like the wax has nothing to do with the flame. You know, the flame has nothing to do with the wax. They're totally different phenomena. But without each other, they don't exist. So if the codependence of the self and world is so serious that we can't even, if we think as a self, we're wrong. If we think as a world, we could be wrong. Because if they are the same thing, it's like all of human psychology is a mirage in a desert. I think we're, as a species, moving into one of the most strangest philosophical phases of the species. What does it mean to be human? And what did it mean to our ancestors? And what did it mean to us? You know, or what is it going to mean to our grandchildren, great-great-great-grandchildren of humanity? So can you imagine, like, the future generations in the future, they will look at us in 2020 and be like, oh my god, our ancestors thought they were in the world. They didn't realize they were being the whole universe. If the future is already here, then we don't need the concept of the future. And I feel that this concept of time that is haunting our species into haste and inaccuracy, it's as if companies very strictly care about, like, the employee being on time. They don't care about the psychology of the employee on time. You know, as if the employee ran to work, you know, and then when he sat down, it's like it took a while to settle in that whole intensity of it all. You know? It's like re-objectification in a world of objects could be, you know what it is? It's like a dream is dreaming, and the dream doesn't know that, it knows it's in a dream, but it doesn't know that when it will wake up from a dream, it is still a dream. So it's like when let's say a human life cycle, a person lives 100 years, that person 100 years just identifies with linear time and just pure materialism. 100 years of identifying as an object, of course, at the end of it you will freak out. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but if the person's like, okay, 100 years of living as an object, that's, you know, that's fine, that's in its own place. But what about the mind's life? What is moving the object? It's like, you know what it is? It's like wondering, if you're made of atoms, what is inspiring these atoms? If the being is right now energy, if I'm talking to people like in these podcasts in a global sense, and people are energy, if people are acknowledging their energy, it's like, how much of this energy is independent? It's like, how independent is the observer from the observed, and how dependent is the meaning of the observed to the observer? Like, it's so strange that at least in my search or journey into mysticism, for me it was it's as if, imagine you're looking for something as a human for a long time, and the moment you find it, you realize it is something no human idea can touch. That means, imagine there was a truth in this realm of ours, but you could not access it as a human. When I say as a human, it doesn't mean as something. You can't access it as a dualistic phenomenon. Because if the person doesn't see the dimensions of the room separate, they're gonna have so much a hard time discriminating in regards to where the karma is coming from. You know, so it's like, it's as if in one dimension. Okay, think of it this way: treat consciousness as a general in a battlefield. This general has like all the cells of the body at its disposal. It has all the memories. Like, that's one army. Like, let's say the body is like an army for the consciousness, the presence, whoever's like here right now. So the soul is like a general, the body is an army, or the body is the kingdom. I could even say that the body is like a kingdom, you know. But either way, let me just keep to the angle of the battlefield. So the body, it's like you have on one level a giant long-term maintenance project of commanding your elemental existence as an experiencer. So that's like, it's one dimension. That's like one army that they need to, like, the body has to strategically endure itself. And the biggest question for the body comes, why do I have a body? Oh yeah, to use this mind, you know. So I would say the body is like a tool in the hand of an eternal, I shouldn't say eternal, I should say multidimensional being. So this body is a tool. It's as if you've woken up and advanced technologies in your hand, you know, and you're like, whoa, what do I do with this? Oh yeah, I need to live, you know. So it's as if establishing, and the way is, there's different generals. There's some generals like Genghis Khan. He used fear. He dressed himself up in he wore the crown of fear. So it's as if when Genghis Khan would attack, he would literally say the wrath of God is here. He treated himself as a god, and he felt he was bringing the wrath of God, you know. Pretty messed up. Like, he totally hadn't understood anything of the concept of God, you know, because it's not touchable by man's mind, just the mere notions. As if, okay, let's say the universe has personality. It's like, you know, it's too big for us to see what kind of personality it is. It's like trying to explain your life story to a red blood cell in your vein. And if that red blood cell had its own red blood cell language and science and philosophy and whatever. I feel if all human beings train their attention in regards to both their personality and their presence in the known and the unknown. That means if you can get comfortable with unknown moments, and if you can get comfortable with known moments, you become a creature that can never be ideologically possessed. And when I say ideologically possessed, that means your attention is comfortable to move in whatever spectrum between the known and the unknown. Imagine the most known thing is an object. The most unknown thing for now is like, yo, how are we being a subject right now? So it's like subjects, right? So subjects are like, they're like socialists. They're in the they're in the middle, you know, like. In the middle of the spectrum of the known and the unknown. That means objects, very easy to say what an object is. Subjects, it's like how many ways are there to speak about a subject? Endless ways. You can just pick up something every day and look at it from a new angle, and it's like a new dimension. And think of it this way. Let's say we are concerned about the future and about knowledge in the future. Let's say what's going to happen to knowledge. Same thing. All that is to be known is here. That means that all the verbs we use, that the future arrives, or this is what's going to happen in the future, or this is what will be in the future, these are all just sound. Really, the future has to be evoked, extracted, remembered, cultivated, and either released. You can release the future. What other verb can I find for this? You can create the future. Create, invent, anything synonyms of that. But the future is coming. I mean, like, that sentence is to me, the future is already here. We are getting to it. We are opening up to it. Everything is here. You know, I just fathom for a moment, I'm like, let's say somehow I could activate my ultimate ability as a human being on this planet just to see what that ability was, just to see where the surpassing of, like, where does the attention go? You don't know, guys. I've had moments where I have literally put my whole world story and my linear life and time on pause, and I have just gone into a moment, and for a second the whole world has felt to me like a simulation, and one question has remained in my heart, and that is, who is here? Who is looking through my eyes? That I can tell you, there has been moments, and even in Zen, I got introduced to this idea. They called it kill the Buddha. You know, I know that sounds savage, but if I explain it to you, you'll know what I mean. What it means, kill the Buddha, was in Zen, which you can say it's like a cultural denomination of Buddhism, a more culturally simpler form of Buddhism. But I would say, in Zen, the Zen master would tell the person, go meditate. The disciple would go sit down and meditate, and usually if the meditation went well, the disciple would be like, yo. And it's like the Zen master had this problem of a bunch of disciples coming up to him and all of them saying, we remembered we're Buddha. We all remembered we're Buddha. You know, and the Zen master's like, oh, good for you. You remembered you're the Buddha, kill the Buddha, you know? So that was the whole point. The idea was, when you start taking steps or become sensitive to your inner realms and even start discriminating, a spiritual experience in quotations is that notice is snapping out of language. Usually you're noticing the observer within. That means it could be that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're. It's just the act of creation. You can say it's like where there is novelty and an incredible concentration for and you know what it is. It's also like the future is here, but it hasn't landed. It's as if the future's in the sky, but it hasn't landed down yet. You know. To surpass yourself means to forget yourself, and that question of who is looking through your eyes right now, if we were to follow yogic thought, you may be surprised how many beings look through our eyes. We're not alone. That means these our elemental bodies are property of the universe. Then it is the property of the idea of us in this universe. Elements, it's as if the periodic table belongs to the universe, but the idea of us belongs to us. Like the idea that this is my body, this is my, like, you know, this is the human body, that is, you know, us. So I'm saying mobility of the biological body, yes, that belongs to the consciousness, but the periodic table doesn't belong to anyone. The stardust doesn't belong to anyone. That means I have no idea. It's like, I think not enough philosophers have looked at materialism. It cannot be. That means it's like materialism and immaterialism, if they are not codependent, it's as if, how can you tell what's material? How do you define what matter is without a consideration of its reverse? It's kind of like, how do you know what a bad person is if you haven't defined what good actions are, right? Or how do you know what a good person is if you haven't defined bad actions? You know, one day we will remember ourselves beyond all our memories. Language is paint. Right now, I'm splashing paint in silence. Sveta says, something decent is looking through your eyes. To me, it's the biggest value behind all the curious reflections I hear when I listen to you. I'm trying to feel, I'm trying to see what I can say about. Okay, it's not a, let me tell you, okay, perfect. I'll go from where the idea of kill, where I said kill the Buddha, they would say that in Zen. That means kill don't let the inner event define you. So let's say we ask the question, somebody takes it super seriously. Okay, what's looking through my eyes? First analysis, what is it? The person realizes every question they ask from themselves, the mind generates an answer. So the mind is an activity. So human identity, it needs to be activated. It is based on how we move. So how energy behaves. So this is kind of it. It's like the universe is energy. Energy that has control over itself, that is personhood and creaturehood. Energy that doesn't have control over itself is unconscious. So it's as if, okay, I control the energy of my body, but what controls the energy of, like, you know, the Milky Way galaxy, right? And it's the laws of nature. And what's incredible, just the idea that there could be two brothers or sisters and same age, let's say twins, and let's say these twin sisters, one of them goes into outer space and one of them stays on Earth, and the way they experience and age is different. What does that tell us? That tells us the laws of nature as they are contained, they change. So the laws of nature are another way of saying there is a container to the universe, but it is dynamic. Something we have never thought, that the walls, the edge of the universe is its end is dynamism. So dynamism is the edge of the universe. And the center of the universe is becoming more static to a point where it's just lifeless stuff in space. You know, it's like how motivational, you know, I'm a mortal human being. It's like if I, it's like, you know, I didn't know I'm just, you know, meaningless atoms hovering in the void, you know, it's like, so there has to be an additional dimensions and input into the moment. So I would say, if I was to say who is that, so first I realize it is not my body, because I am aware of the body. But I know that whatever I am is also dependent on the body. So it's as if like there is no candle flame if there is no candle, right? So, but it doesn't mean the candle flame, a candle lights itself, right? It doesn't mean suddenly atoms just move themselves. You know, this doesn't mean it has to be a divine agency or divine agent or some transcendental agents, changing factor, but like, I am telling you, what is behind our eyes, all of us, is a future where we are consciously being the whole universe. And those who remember this, they fearlessly die in time. You know, there was this quote in the Bhagavad Gita, which, I don't know, it's like the Bhagavad Gita is a very unique book. It's like how you read it can suggest if you bring chaos or order into this world. That's really what it is when the profound can be as chaotic. That means chaos can be profound and order can be profound. All moments of karmic activity, that means the pilot can check in with the headquarters. The pilot can notice the elevation, right? And the passengers in the plane. When I use this pilot of consciousness analogy, for myself, it took me a while, and it was through certain inner realm events where suddenly it clicked for me, where it's not about belief or disbelief. Truth is not about like how we hold it in our hand only, you know? So the moment it was beyond belief and disbelief, I was like, why, excuse my language, but I gotta be honest, why the fuck has our species been choosing between good and bad when there is endless variations of everything possible? That means we have been self-suffering through chaos and order, not realizing it's an endless buffet of conceptual origin. That means it doesn't matter, you can spark a fire anywhere. It doesn't matter how tired you are. That's really why I feel language is so transcendental. That it's like the only speech is the only fast, like really high speed output process. That means it's as if a person wants to write something, imagine you become the fastest writer in the world. People look at you and they're like, oh my god, is that the fastest writer in the world? You know? And it's like measured. It's like your writing speed was ridiculous and your handwriting also was like, let's say, next level. Somehow you were like, I don't know, the fastest writer in the world. So imagine as a writer, you're trying to communicate something, but you're doing it on paper, which is way more like carved not in stone but on trees. Technically, when we write, that's equivalent to carving trees, you know. world, a world, a self, a known world, an unknown world, and a known self, and an unknown self. The unknown self and the unknown world are the same. When this is realized, samadhi is possible. But the relationship of self and the world is like where the story is being simulated. As if the sharper image we have of the world, the scientist feels there's a sharper image we have in understanding the self. And it makes sense, I guess, in the sense that the world was here before us, so we should look at the world first, then ourselves, because it's our senior. I mean, we gotta respect, you know, the eldest vision in the room. But excuse me, oldest. So known self, everybody knows that. Everybody knows themselves to some degree, to some percentage. The unknown self, most people are afraid, most people don't want to change due to the whole obsession for comfort. It's as if like after some point comfort becomes disgusting, you know, if nothing's changing, you know. Maybe that's too harsh, but if the point of this world was to be comfortable, then we should just go live inside a painting. If the meaning of life was just happiness, if it was that easy, then it's like we never needed to change. But because the world changes, we have to, if we want to stick around in it. You know, it's like a seed, and the seed, its design, the design of the future is in the seed, right? That means the future is already here for a seed that's planted in the soil, but when you water it and the sunlight hits the seed and a plastic bag doesn't choke the flower, you know, so much litter. You know, a lot of plastic could be, you know, the plant kingdom is fighting plastic right now, you know, and certain animal kingdoms, yeah. You know how many animals have ate plastic thinking it's food? It's ridiculous. It's cruel, you know. But anyways. So it's like keeping the known self and the known world stable. These are known. So it's like the person quickly should find content with their knowledge. And no human being should measure their knowledge, their intelligence, because it's based on your ability to respond to the moment. That's it. Because the world changes, it's like we're endlessly changing rooms, right? It could be that we give a scientist, for example, a Nobel Prize, and then like, I don't know, centuries later or decades later, we suddenly realize their science was flawed, right? So that means self-creation of value, or we create something with the self, then as a group agree with it, and then that replaces our reality or something. I would say non-dual witnessing, attributeless presence, which if it uses its power in language, it will enter a dream in its own truth. That means this is perhaps one of the most complex and a very rare sort of transformation. It's a human being transforming beyond form, changing, right? So it's as if just like you take off a jacket and you put the jacket away, that jacket is no longer in your realm, right? So it could be that certain games, once played long enough, evaporate, or it's like you play the game of a drop, then you find yourself in a river. Now it's like the game of your civilization, how much your civilization wins. Like, so many people are obsessed about winning. So many people wear jerseys, of sport teams, but how many people are wearing the jersey of a species trying to continue in this space-time continuum? It's like in the middle of nowhere, creatures have just appeared and they're trying to do something, or they're wondering what the best thing to do is, right? While at the same time being inconsiderate to our being. There's so many ways. It feels like our culture hasn't updated. And you know what it feels like? It feels like this inner realm of the species is way more ahead of its time than the outer realms. And because of this, the outer realms are only left to update. So I would say maybe for the next 200 years, education shouldn't even be on like teaching, like philosophy. The thing is, philosophy, if philosophy is taught, it's like philosophy, like a phoenix has to be reborn. It could be that what is watching the finite is in the finite, so infinite. It could be that the infinite is watching itself be finite. That means something that never dies. Let's say so if energy is defined by changing, it can't be created or destroyed, but it changes one form to another. So it's as if energy is doing its own thing eternally, like energy is not going away. So energy is being. Now, let's say there's an energy that cannot be created or destroyed, but this energy doesn't transform. So let's say there is a transformative energy, and then there is an energy that can never transform. And let's say if we suddenly realize all transformation requires a static point. You know what that means? That means all the talks I have given ever, every moment of my life where personality or personhood has been relevant, it has started from a static moment. That means this whole universe is spinning around a moment that never moved. We are the dream of the void. But what the void is, to us we call it void. To itself it's not void. Right now, people on this planet get offended when the wrong words or words they don't like or words from another inner realm enter their ears. So the species is like, we may have access to a lot of information, but our ability to use it is like an 8-year-old child that gets offended. So once there is a more mature, let's say, and deeper and multidimensionally liberated system of value that the human being uses. That means the human being, it's as if, what have I been doing? Judging things. Like, you know, it's like, when did I become a judge in this world? You know, so the judgment stops. And what happens, it's not that the urge of judgment stops. The urge of judgment just becomes like a chapter in the person's life. I don't know how to say it. Like one page of a book. It becomes one dimension of a system. So that means I feel we can do this. I don't know if this is something on a global level the species is ready to do, but we can suddenly declare that multidimensionality made duality obsolete, because duality can be included in multidimensionality. That means it's like we found, if we were using a certain alphabet, then we found a bigger alphabet that encompassed the previous alphabet. So this means it's like any person, it's like you can, good and bad are like, are we looking at the shadow or are we looking at the sun? And both are possibilities in any moment. I've had people who in certain moments communicated to me and they tuned into my shadow. Or their own shadow, I don't know what it was, but it was like I could totally feel like something, you know what it is? It's like you can feel moments before they have become concepts. So we will activate a way more better future, an advanced future, if we become multidimensionally tolerant. You know what that means? That means imagine two people from two different cultures, two different belief systems, worlds apart in values and behaviors, suddenly being like, oh my God, with this multidimensional system, it's as if we can never be declared. That means it's like when we see a religious person, it's like how there's, you know what's like, here's the thing, it's like that's a dimension of their mind. That is not them. Because a person can't be a concept. We can't be the words in a book. You can try, but you'll kind of like, after a while, be like, what am I doing, like moving around on my notebook? So, the language is it's as if, what did we do before we woke up in the dream? We explored the infinitude of the dream. The infinitude of the dream allows all value systems to be seen to endlessly. That means an action that is right or wrong, we can endlessly till the end of time in every generation of people that arise, judge it, that was wrong, that was right, that was wrong. Literally it's on off, literally like how the sun goes up and down. That's how complex it is to truly build a universal moral system, right? And it's impossible, and let me tell you why. Because collectivity, see, if we wanted to be anarchist and if we wanted to just break things, it's super easy to break things, right? There's no strategy needed. You only need strategy when you want to build something. Even though dividing and conquering is a strategy, what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, you know, it's like it's so easier to dismiss, to see something empty than full. So we can say it is impatient ignorance. Duality, it's like there's nowhere to draw the fine line of what is fine and what is wrong, you know. And you know how long it's going to take for a species to start being like, oh my God, what if we're rhythms? That means, what if we are rivers of intelligence? What if the person who thought they were an individual soul realizes that concept makes no sense? You know, it's just a stepping stone to the collective, really. And I'll tell you this, without breaks and intervals, it's like we're not even meant to speak too much. So what I mean by that is that if somebody says, what is the value of an idea? It's only how it translates into action. I feel the species is moving from national, let's say from just a cultural angle, to from a cultural let's say national angle, to more where we are starting to realize our personalities are not bound. They are energetic evocations. That means there's no such thing as strange behavior, there's no such thing as normal behavior, there's just behavior based on how you start looking at it. It's like this show, recently I've been using this as a metaphor, this show called Black Clover, where somebody pretty much saw, it's an incredible idea, it's like there's, you know, the four suits, what is it, spade, diamond, clover, and the heart. It's like the person has made that into a fantasy universe where everybody has magic, some magical ability in it, right? So those four are all kingdoms, you know, in the narrative of Black Clover, and in it everybody had magic, and everybody had their own type of magic in accordance to how their character had appeared. And there was it's as if it's like how the magic is used and how the magic is combined suggests the strength of the magic of the moment, right? So it's not just like about having something or just being something, you know. It's just utility. It's like there has to be utility value. It's like our decisions are becoming more and more multidimensional as we realize the future was the figment of an imagination of one universally existential activity. So when the species can treat the ideas of the world as a simulation overlaid on a world that can potentially mean anything. If like our imagination is a prototype for cyberspace. I wouldn't be surprised if human intelligence is like in, let's say in mystical sense, for example, in the Sufi tradition, they would call it veils, like reality was veiled, like as if there's endless curtains between you and the truth, you know? Not endless curtains, but a curtain that is endless, let's say. So these veils could be lifted, or the veil could be lifted. So to lift off the veils of reality, it's like pulling aside the curtain of language through silence and stillness, which pretty much is meditation. And when the person notices, for me, if somebody was to say, who are you? Like I can say endless things, but unknown watcher, unknown attributeless witness. This unknown attributeless witness, sometimes I have asked, why is the logos there? Why is intelligence happening? And the response has just been further sight. You know what that means? That means we only see the observable universe, so we feel we're only building a human civilization. We don't realize that, this is of course here poetically, beyond the veil, this world is not in accordance to the human mind. It's in accordance to an interdimensionally way more advanced thing going on here. You know what that means? It's as if like the parent has gone to the store and the child has gone with the parent, let's say, into the store. The parent is paying for gas, but the child is looking at the candy. It's like looking at the parents. It's like, I want this concentrated sugar. So it's as if we are like the kid in the store, just accessing the candy. A human civilization is us like seeking candy. Believe it or not, me saying advanced civilization, that's like the candy. But what is interdimensionally potentially going on here is like the father paying for the gas, let's say in the gas station dash grocery store, whatever example I'm trying to make here. But so I'm saying that it's kind of like remembering yourself from a 2D game into a 3D game, and then from a 3D game into a 4D game, then realizing the nature of the game itself. Then after you've realized the nature of this game, at some point the player on the field is like, who made this game? It's like somebody losing in chess endlessly, and it's like, okay, who made chess? It's like, let me go fight that king. So it'd be something where the endless repetition in the game will eventually make you wonder how the game is made, and the person's attention goes automatically into the creator state. That means it doesn't matter wisdom. This is why Ramana Maharshi was like, yo, just, he didn't say yo, but Ramana Maharshi would say, just be still. That divine wisdom you're seeking, it's following you. But because you endlessly change due to your reactions of distrust with the simultaneity of your being with the world, that's why the wisdom can't find you. Something in those lines. There's moments I wonder, like, okay, let's say there's an advanced civilization in another dimension already built. Let's say this whole idea of an advanced civilization, the moment I said it, this advanced civilization was built in another dimension. And now, if we knew there was beyond the veil another advanced civilization, we would begin wondering how much of our civilization is being influenced. That means, imagine we think the earth is just for humanity, but it could be, imagine endless parallel universes of humans and types of civilizations. Yeah. Or even non-human. It's like, where do we draw the line? How do we decide when energy is human? Like, we can even say humanity is just a phase of nature. Nature's going through a phase where it looks human for a little while. But I feel it's like this. It's like the first people, imagine the first hospital that was ever made. Doctors were just, it was probably, I don't know, after wartime, right, or something, where a bunch of people in separate realities, separate doctors were like, yo, we need a building for this. So the idea of the hospital, I don't know, sometimes I feel a lot of the stuff we don't understand, it's still like nature naturally happening. Even cruelty, right? Even violence and evil, even it's there. It's like, it's like there's bad smells and good smells. There's efficient moments and inefficient moments. That means this is I don't know, it feels like we have all we need to be advanced, but we are not yet. And I don't know what is the holdup. The holdup, is it the world story that has become so boring and chaotic that people have given up? I think, is it that, or is it that people have believed themselves too early in a world that is unknown? That means the most honest answer, if they ask the religious person, who are you? The person should be, I'm the will of God, man. I don't know what to tell you. You know, everything's the will of God, so there is no me here. There's God, though. You know, so that would be the religious angle. Just the fact that a religious person says I'm religious, on some level doesn't make sense. It's as if, what is God saying that? So how can God be religious? You know? Because when we wonder about what moves, it's the brain of the creature, right? That means, strangely, in some of these, in the Abrahamic traditions, there is phrases that suggest, in some of those books, what is the phrase? God is giving you your intelligence, so you use it. As if, like, we have a body to move it and we have a mind to use. That's the greater meaning of life. That's after you high-five the way society wanted you to live, and you high-five society once you've completely fit into the puzzle. Then you're like, oh my God, the puzzle is always there, right? So I feel it's strange. It's like, how many human beings are trying to be? It's like there's an ideological cloning war going on. And it's as if, should 8 billion human beings honor the uniqueness of their DNA, or should they clone themselves to fit into some sort of agreeable community? It's like it's a hard challenge. Sometimes living in this world makes you feel like not wanting to be here, and in other moments it makes you feel wanting to endlessly do. Because it's like, if you ask people what is the purpose of life, at most it's like an ideology or some story. But if you were to ask the universe and your own heart, you will see it's just to work. That's it. That means divinity is just efficiency in the work. Efficiency that doesn't come from the human angle, let's say. Okay, guys, I need a quick breather. I'll be back. So stay tuned if you like this. Okay guys, I'm back. I was thinking in the break, like, okay, if the future is already here, it could lead to people not maybe being motivated to follow the individual. So I thought I gotta bring in the outer realms and inner realms of the future. The future in the inner realms is already here. In the outer realms, it has to be brought, right? So in the mind is timeless, let's say. And if the mind is timeless, the mind can access any time. It's as if like, the 4D sees the 3D, mistakes of the 3D, or can choosing like a three-dimensional object can be placed anywhere on the table. So in the inner realm, timeless. It's in the inner realm. It's just instant evocation. In the outer realms, we have a choice. We can let what we see in our inner realms just pass us by like a bird, just flying in the sky, or we can use it. So think of it this way: that people can't, like the airbender, control the elements, right? But what they can do is get access to probabilities of the realm, and then in accordance to those probabilities that they have access in their inner realm, pretty much we have access to multidimensionality. Like I tried this out, people can try it out. So I play with my geometry in quotations, what we call imagination, right? So how I play with it is that I realize everything has design. Let's say right now I'm looking at this ashtray in front of me, for example. This ashtray has a design. It has, like, I can see a circle, and much more. And so this design of this ashtray, I can in my inner realms copy it, literally copy the ashtray, and then in my inner realms change its color, change its appearance, change it to whatever I like. So it's as if we don't have an ability to levitate things, but we can actually look at an object, close our eyes, and in our inner realms do whatever we want with it, right? And sometimes, for example, when it comes to, let's say, human communication in regards to objectification, subjectification, that means it's like one angle just sees how the moment is an object, one angle is seeing how the moment is just a type of subject, right? And honestly, through the recognition of the unknown, we liberate ourselves from the massive hollow self-assumption of what others are. So when it comes to the future, it's your relationship with the known and the unknown. If you care for the unknown, you will find the new. If you care for the known, you will most likely become a scribe. You will go into like that kind of modality. And scribes are honorable beings, Like that means there are some human beings that were just born to literally write a book into another book and pass that book on, and then they leave the dimension. You know what I mean? Like so it's like, it really depends. It's as if there's imagine three higher dimensional beings, call them gods, whatever you like. These three higher dimensional beings are looking at this one moment. Right, so imagine three higher dimensional beings are looking at the moment, and let's just just to use Vedic imagery, let's say Shiva, Brahman, and Vishnu are standing in front of one another, and they're looking at something they have designed in front of them. So what that means is, for example, these are the ways the dimension are. Because think of it this way: before any person can worship any god, okay, you got to first wonder where you are, right? What you are. That means it's like before you worship, what are you that's worshiping? Then how do you know even if you're worshiping right or wrong if you don't know you? You know? So this is why it's as if I think the same level of blasphemy that back in the day in religious circles it was seen of, for example, the multidimensional is the secret of God. Well, the whole thing is that we are overlaying our extraction of what religion means, right? So that means it's this thing where it's left to the eyes and the ink on the page, and how the eyes look at that ink and it becomes something. And the coolest thing about being, like we say human being, is that the human is temporary, but being itself, like I don't know if people have ever experienced this, probably everybody has, but like just a moment where it's not like the person wants a better future, they want to change the past, they want to do the right thing in the present. The person is like, okay, I am like happening alongside a universal vastness. Like it's like that is so overwhelming that it's like it's like it's like the vastness of the universe blew away the ideological top hats we've been wearing all these years. We are an instrument. The moment people realize this, right, your life will change. Because you, for the first time, will become fascinated. It's like, whoa, so I've been alive all this time, and now I've noticed it's like this intelligence can be played, and it can be played in different states of mind, right? And some states of mind, if the person doesn't have trust, the dimension stops existing. You know, that means it's like, when it comes to at least the inner realms, it's conditional to attention. You know what that means? That means if I was to close my eyes and I suddenly in my inner realms, I'm like standing on a cloud. If suddenly someone in my inner realms, let's say nothing, no interference from the outer realms. If I'm looking at and I'm standing on a cloud, the only thing that gives me a reason to change is activity of the self-image. So that means it's as if when I open my eyes, first person point of view, you see like the hands and the world, right? But when I close my eyes, I see myself third person. So when I see myself third person, that means it's as if there's the texture of thought is actually an activity of how nature's being. When you realize that, then you stop fighting with nature. It's hilarious. It's as if, it's like, you know what it is? It's as if the person didn't get rid of all their desires. They got rid of their ultimate desire. And the moment they got rid of their ultimate desires, all the other desires had nowhere to go. For this episode, I would like to also go into a quote tunnel. I'll put on as theme for tonight, just the future. Let's see what people have said about the future, literally. Yeah. Jean de La Fontaine says a person often meets his destiny on the road he took to avoid it. Mike Murdoch says the secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. William Jennings Bryan says destiny is no matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for. It is a thing to be achieved. Ralph Abernathy says, I don't know what the future may hold, but I know who holds the future. Yeah, it's our kids. Sitting is children of the future. It's a sitting bull. I think it's a chief of a native wisdom. Sitting Bull says, let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children. Niels Bohr says, prediction is very difficult, especially if it's about the future. Jack Welch says, control your own destiny or someone else will. This is something where in these talks I've pointed to in the way where I'm saying, if you don't move yourself, the world will move yourself for you. So now, as being a conscious being, it's like an ability that we have, that we can, I don't want to say control, so then the person becomes like a, a raging controller, but I'm saying like in the sense of, just like how a person can dance multidimensionally, the moment can also move. James Joyce says, I am tomorrow or some future day what I established today. I am today what I established yesterday or some previous day. Barack Obama says the future rewards those who press on. I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I don't have time to complain. I'm going to press on. Warren Bennis, this is an incredible quote. Warren Bennis says the factory of the future will have only two employees, a man and a dog. The man will be there to feed the dog will be there to keep the man from touching the equipment. Albert Ellis says, the best years of your life are the ones in which you decide your problems are your own. You do not blame them on your mother, the ecology, or the president. You realize that you control your own destiny. Graham Greene, there is always one moment in childhood when the door opens and lets the future in. Steve Jobs, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down and has made all the difference in my life. It is true, because we're energetic beings And our attitude suggests what sort of energy in this realm we tune into. So it's like your approach is how your life moves, bro. William Shakespeare says, it is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. Abraham Lincoln says, you cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. Jose Rizal says, the youth is the hope of our future. Oscar Wilde says, the only difference between the saint and the sinner is that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. John Bon Jovi. Map out your future, but do it in pencil. The road ahead is as long as you make it. Make it worth the trip. Yeah, it's my life, George Orwell says, who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. Check this out. Who controls the past controls the future. That means the past story, the way you see your past suggests your ability in your future. If you see your past as weak and inefficient, your future will be inefficient. And the best way to see the past is that it was the best thing at the time that could have happened. It was like, okay, that was the ability that was around, It's like if a person can't forgive their past, then how are they going to even be able to forgive themselves in the present? How could they move on? Hank Stram says, yesterday is a canceled check. Today is cash on the line. Tomorrow is a promissory note. Nikola Tesla. Let the future tell the truth and evaluate each one according to his work and accomplishments. The present is theirs. The future for which I have really worked is mine. So guys, what Nikola Tesla is trying to say here is how Edison was a pain in the ass. Edison was, of course, he's a man, they were both geniuses. But like, if you were to judge the morality of the geniuses, Tesla cared way more about where genius was heading. That means, it's like Tesla probably reminded Edison of his youth, but he had become too much of a grumpy old man. Maybe, I don't know. Like he would electrocute elephants to show off his DC motor. Oh man. Anyways, to continue, Friedrich Nietzsche, the future influences the present just as much as the past. Mark Strand says the future is always beginning now. Alan Watts says, I have realized that the past and the future are real illusions, that they exist in the present, which is what there is and all there is. Wayne Dyer, stop acting as if life is a rehearsal. Live this day as if it were your last. The past is over and gone. The future is not guaranteed. Henry Miller says every man has his own destiny. The only imperative is to follow it, to accept it, no matter where it leads him. Pope John Paul II says the future starts today, not tomorrow. Jeff Bezos says what we need to do is always lean into the future when the world changes around you and when it changes against you. What used to be a tailwind is now a headwind. You have to lean into that and figure out what to do, because complaining isn't a strategy. Yeah, there is this thing that every moment a choice has to be made in regards to where the attention is going to go. If the person is complaining, that means the attention wants the outer realms to adjust to the inner realms. When the person realizes that the inner realms need to adjust to the outer realms, and they can update and evolve, and the inner realms are unconditional, the outer realms are conditional. And of course the inner realms are, it's like we have minds because we're bodies. I mean, if we didn't have bodies, it's like, whose mind is speaking like that, you know? So like but I feel what's trying to be pointed at here is that really it's like you pull the string instead of complaining of how much it's been pulled already. There's always more string to pull in regards to exploration of a universe we're in once, and I'm telling you, there's way more question marks here than exclamation points. Marcus Aurelius says, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to. With the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. Ray Bradbury says, I don't try to describe the future, I try to prevent it. Interesting. Sometimes I wonder, could it be that this imperative to prevent an inefficient outcome is the biggest reason? That means it could be that the person has no inspiration to, you know, put down the flames of the house until the flames come to them. So it could be that chaos is inspiring the greatest order, and order is inspiring the greatest chaos. And unless chaos and order awaken to the true multidimensional, I don't know what word to use, grandeur of the realm, like, there's so much more that we can gain from integration than from anarchist, everybody in their own bubble kind of chaos. Matty I can't even pronounce this. Stepanek says, even though the future seems far away, it is actually beginning right now. Is that right? Albert Camus says, real generosity toward the future lies in giving all to the present. Yeah, this is when a person attains, when they realize energy doesn't end. Our bodies could be temporary, but really what echoes on is, like who said it's temporary. Yogi Berra says the future ain't what it used to be. Horace says, cease to inquire what the future has in store, and take as a gift whatever the day brings forth. Yeah, I mean, the future has a weight, right? There was that scene in the Avengers where Thanos looks at, like, I don't know, he's choking out Tony Stark like in wrestling. You know, he's like about to like beat Tony Stark, and he says, you're not the only one cursed with knowledge. What does he mean when he say cursed in knowledge? He means that you're not the only one who has noticed something more. And when you notice something more, you automatically get pulled to it. So all you require is just trust, and the moment pilots them. You know, but this doesn't mean it's like the person has to think their ego is the source of the problem and they have to stop being a self, and that's what enlightenment means. You know, I feel that's a fallacy. That's how enlightenment becomes the trap, when you want to escape the realm rather than being completely content, as if you you finished writing the book and you saw the last period and done. You move on to the next, you move on to the next, and as you move on to the next, you wonder why the snowball effect is, but why the snowball is getting bigger, 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 and eventually there comes liftoff. And so for me, I feel death is liftoff. It's liftoff from linearization of intelligence. And so if we can establish that now, like in one of my science fiction novels I've written, The Messenger of Giants, it's in the year 5025, and I've done something strange. I have looked at the most simplest things and tried to wonder about the future of the simple rather than the future of the complex, and believe it or not, I've seen complexities that are like, it just comes. That means it's like once the person is content with simplicity, what else can their attention do? It's just like only the complex is the only thing. That means they were like some the yogis. There was this yogi who, like, the yogi was like this very liberated person, and then he would give a discourse to his disciples or whatever, and then the yogi would come to his wife who was cooking food in the kitchen, and he's like, what's cooking? He's like, what's the food, right? And the wife is like, how are you enlightened? I don't get it here. Like, you know, you talk about enlightenment, then come and ask me what's food. Like, you can't wait to eat the food. It's like, what kind of conquering of the desires is this? Right? And then the yogi says, the day you see me, evidently, and this is a story I heard, I don't know who it was, I think it was from Saudi who I heard this. But anyways, what happens is the guy used to eat his lunch like on these swings they have in India, swing like tables, and so what happens is the yogi says to his wife that the day you bring food and I don't eat it, know that in 3 days I am leaving this realm. And the wife suddenly gets shocked and says nothing, and of course it's a different culture there. But and so what happens is that one day the wife brings the food, and this yogi, that his desire has been to stay in the realm, right? That means it's literally like an exam we're writing this life, and suddenly the exam is like our desires to write the exam. The moment they say time up, you can't move your pen anymore, right? That's what I feel. Attention, the great elemental return, or rent-a-karma would be. So we return the vehicle, we return the periodic table back to the void, pretty much. But there was more to this I wanted to say, but I think I left the door. The inner realm image passed. You know, it's so cool. Our bodies move in a world, our minds move the world in our bodies. That's what's happening. And we could say the world is a mind. And what's in the mind is a body. So, you know, same way that we can have a body projecting the mind, it could be a mind that has positioned itself as a body. That means the more the person goes towards the truth, it's like the more they're like, imagine like a camera angle from the leaf's point of view. Then suddenly the leaf got enlightened. Oh my God, the leaf became the branch. Now the branch is noticing, and the branch becomes enlightened and realizes it's all these leaves at once simultaneously. That be somebody was in the chat section saying about like wondering about what's looking through my eyes as I speak in these talks. I'm telling you, what's looking through my eyes is not just speaking through this. This is just a leaf. I'm like a leaf. And then what is really the real self, like I said it, you know, the real self, that is even beyond the branch, right? So it's as if you were looking at life as a leaf. Oh my God, I'm gonna fall, you know, and then suddenly you realize you're the branch. Now it's the game is not life or death. The game is, are you multiple or are you singular? It's not about is there 0, 1. It's about one. It's about 1 to infinity, or I would say 1 to the relationship of 1 to an infinity. So experiencing yourself as a mind, even in the future with cyberspace, android bodies that the human being can control, even though like the person's, let's say, drinking a cup of tea at home, and like, I don't know, their mind though is moving as a bunch of androids in the world, right? So the world could be filled with androids, and the android is like a person who is like at home doing work, but in the android's eyesight is accessible in their mind or on a screen. I would say in their mind at that point. This is, I'm seeing this in the future. The android will just be walking the street to go and get groceries, and it's like nobody can even hurt that android. Why? Because that android is literally the property of the person. So it's it's the mechanical body. So right now we have a biological body and, I don't know, mind, which is, I don't know, creating gods and voids and, a tornado of whatever, however way language is, like a cow being thrown in there. You know? The ultimate advancement of the communication of the creature, more and more recognizing its inseparability with the cosmic activity. People are going to snap out of language. They're going to realize there being moments of the world. As moments of the world, your ability doesn't become limited to your personality. It becomes evocational in how you are surfing the rhythm of the moment. When we can all surf the rhythm of the moment, something unique will happen. An atmosphere is going to develop. This atmosphere is going to, what I have fathomed it as, the multidimensional renaissance. It has already started, but the issue is that the multidimensional renaissance, its possibility was always here. It was that there was this giant curtain pulled over it, the curtain of a language worship. Right? For me, it's strange. You know what it is? It's like there were people who came and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Is that an object you're worshiping?" And it's like, "Pah!" They slapped the object out of the person's hand. The person's like, "What do I worship next? I can't worship idols anymore." The person started worshiping ideas. And it might be scary, but till now we are still worshiping ideas. It's as if it's like, what option do we have? Either we are this, either we are not this, either we are beyond this. What other way can the human story dance? And I feel like in the future it will happen, The advanced communicators will not be the liberators of psychological disturbance globally. It would be like we got bored of our alphabet. We got bored of history repeating itself. It's like history, be more creative, you know? So in the chat section, Sveta says, if you singular, then you lonely. And that distresses me all my life. Here's the hilarious thing. If you are singular, you're either seeing it as if the whole moment is one thing. That means it's like, yeah, God is lonely. You know? It's like religions have been shouting that, you know, all this time. Whether polytheistic or theistic, that's one thing they have in common. You know? It's like, it's one truth. You know? And even in polytheism, people may think they worship multiple gods, but people don't realize the gods are all like the dreams of greater gods. So it eventually singularizes. Right? That means it's like, it's believe it or not, it's like the Bhagavad Gita would say this. Those people who worship a god, I don't know, let's say you saw a giant marshmallow and you started worshipping this giant marshmallow, okay, as a god, right? So in the Bhagavad Gita, this ancient book for on yoga, it says that those people who worship a deity in the afterlife, that deity is going to administer them. Why? Because they have poured their life force into that. Do you know what I mean? So that means the person, according to the Bhagavad Gita, if that is the case, if the Bhagavad Gita has interdimensional accuracy, but a giant marshmallow is gonna come and, I don't know, high five your soul or something. I don't know. So it's like how the energy was used and how selflessly. The Bhagavad Gita also says those people who selflessly act, it doesn't mean you stop being a self. It means you don't get attached to inner events. That means if somebody comes and says something that bothers you, the moment that person is out of the room and you have moved on to the next moment, it's like done. It's like, no, sadness should have, that inner event, like the person can't become capable of this. Where they are like, how dare language in a moment define me, this unknown attention that's been continuing all these days? How dare the ideas of myself on myself in one day chain me from all that I can be? Do you see? It's like the unknown roars. It's as if the person attains an ultimate state of samadhi, and then it's like, the person's like, God, is that you? And the God's like, no, it's you. You know, and the person's like, no way. I'm God, God's me. The universe is, you know, one being. I'm telling you, when you realize divinity is inherent to just how something moves, and we, instead of divinity, which is an archaic term, use the term the epitome of the advancement of communication. I'm telling you, like, if we just had this communication view, everything's communication, and that means the solution to everything is communication. Because literally, think about it. If imagine, like, there's 6 people listening. Imagine all of us had jetpacks and we were in the sky right now, and we were looking at Earth. We'd notice, okay, what are we looking at? We're looking at creatures that are embodied, that can move, but also creatures that use their body to move something else that is not embodied. We are using sound and memory to speak, and that is. There was the concept of mana in a magic universe. I would say that is Kamana. C-O-M-M-A-N-A. Communication. The mana of communication. Right? I am telling you, we are not... I said this earlier, I'm kind of going back into the same tunnel, but I'm saying... anytime in the moment I believe I know myself, suffering begins. Any moment I am still unknown to myself, that means, think about children. You ask a young child, who are you? The child's just like, I have no clue, where am I? But it's all energetic and joy and emotion. Do you know? So it's as if there is no, it's strange, but I think imagination is like an ability that is always there, right? It could be that the child sculpts itself. It narrows down. It's not like people don't have an imagination. It's like people have just chosen a chunk of their imagination and they've settled down. And I'm telling you, you should not treat ideas like a house. I'm gonna read two more quotes, guys. The quote tunnel was kind of like left open. James Baldwin says, "There's never time in the future in which we will work out our salvation. The challenge is in the moment. The time is always now." William Wordsworth. Life is divided into three terms: that which was, which is, and which will be. Let us learn from the past to profit by the present, and from the present to live better in the future. And lastly, Percy Shelley says, "Fear not the future, weep not for the past." And I'm going to read one more. It says, Henry Frederick Amiel, he says, "Destiny has two ways of crushing us, by refusing our wishes and by fulfilling." And I'll read one more. Gustav Flaubert says, "The most glorious moments in your life are not the so-called days of success, but rather those days when, out of dejection and despair, you feel rise in you a challenge to life and the promise of future accomplishments." If the world just, everybody becomes explorers, that's the ultimate strategy. And check this out. If the sense of self, like, how does a person's sense of self change? It's their expression, right? Like, we can just for a second forget the meaning of every communication, and on some level see it's the generation of sound. For example, speech, or it's some sort of mobility of the body. That means, I personally feel when a person is what we call thinking, is actually our voice walk in a very nano way, like in a very, with having tiny nano movements, So I feel that it's just like the heart is required to beat to preserve the biology. I feel the voice box is required to move to some degree. It's like a person speaking, then a person speaking so low you can't hear what they're saying, and then wondering are they speaking or not, and realizing it's in that moment where what is thinking and what is very low volume speech is the same. The body can be seen as an animal. It is, we are in the body of an animal, and the evolution has built something. We are like the science project of nature. In Greek mythology, Father Time and Mother Earth. You know, Father Time, and time is the sky, how the earth is spinning in the sky. Our minds are in the unobservable universe. Our bodies are in the observable. And there's nothing really to fear. And the future depends on how you are a self. Even if you're a character in a story, of course, run toward any future you like, or cry over any past you like. But if you become a presence, which was the aim of mysticism, and you, for a moment in this life, wonder, okay, any idea can be me. Can be any idea, any subject can move, so how have I ever identified with being a subject? And in the middle of wondering if you're a subject or not, the question comes, if everything is a thought, does that mean the thinker is a thought? Therefore, the thought is a curtain. It's a simulation. That means what I'm doing here is not talking about the world. I am simulating how reality has been witnessed so far. As if I'm a everybody's imagined again is a candle in a dark room, right? In a dark cosmic room. So what I'm communicating is how far I've noticed that which is just the candles glow. And think about it this way. When candles are together, you can't tell their light apart, but when you are alone, you can get to know your own light, right? So loneliness, when you're young, oh my God, why is this happening? When you're older, oh my God, this is how the universe is happening. So you realize the nature of reality is based on your effort, how you direct it. I am telling you, we're all pilots beyond the language that has defined us for so long. So the approach to the future has to be expression, and the new is the best clue. So if we identify with change, our future is going to be changeless. If we identify with the changeless, our future will change. It's really like where the person has sat down. I feel like nobody has thoughts. People have sat on thoughts. Or their masks again. And you know, every product I have ever seen, like that's from a person in people's imagination. This computer I'm using, you know, it's as if this arose from an idea. Then the idea came on paper or was spoken. Then from a speech level, it was brought on paper, right? Then from paper, it was manufactured, right? So we're constantly seeing endless ideas from the inner realms come, and in accordance to how the cultural program excuse me, how the cultural program accepts the idea or not, it finds continuity. So beliefs and disbeliefs box up the world. A disbelief is a belief on a belief, so technically it's tainted with the belief. So atheists are theists in another dimension, in another way of saying. The idea is simply what we choose to see first. If I let existence hold the steering wheel, I don't exist. All of this is an elemental mirage. If I allow my free will to take the steering wheel, then it's as if the painter has found the brush. It's as if your soul has found your mind, and your mind could never wrong the one. You know, it's as if it's like the great work begins, right? And the great work is not some alchemical shadow, mystery of a shadow. But I'll tell you what it is that everybody is given some sort of expressive power. Now, this expressive power, because it is such a hard job. Like, think about it this way. Imagine if we were on an island, we would have to reimagine civilization, right? But it's like, in order to not have that reimagining, we just see what kind of civilization is already here, and we accept the imagination of our ancestors, not realizing it was their efforts to see the future. That means it's kind of like, it's as if I feel the only way you can see the future is if you have no past. As long as you have a past, you can't see the future. The future belongs to the selfless. The past was for those who like selling fish. Those who were selfish. Oh my God. One last thing, story to leave for the audience. I wanted to bring up two Greek figures, ancient Greek figures, Socrates and Archimedes. Archimedes was a mathematician, and he was this mathematician that had used like his mathematics to defend a village that was under siege from the Romans. You know, so I would say he was the proper denominations are like, anyways, I'll say it this way. Archimedes is this mathematician, genius mathematician. I believe he had also predicted the height of the pyramids by somehow using the shadow of the pyramid and comparing it to the sun tower, like some next level genius view. And so Archimedes is solving this problem where he's drawn, I don't remember what the problem was, but some problem, he's drawn on a beach in the sand, and suddenly he notices there's a Roman soldier, and the Roman soldier is about to kill him, and he tells the Roman soldier, let me solve this problem, I'm about to solve the biggest problem of my life. Now, I'm going to pause the story here, and I'm going to tell you Socrates, because their endings are, their eyes are kind of similar. It's as if they were beings of the same solar rank. And poetically speaking. So Socrates, long story short, they dishonored him, and because they dishonored him, he just trusted the inner oracle he had. So Socrates is and of course this is how he has been. It's not like Socrates has a Facebook page, you know what I mean? It's like, it's how his legend has echoed, you know. But so what happens is Socrates, he goes on stage and he says in this story, through the eyes of Plato, he says, I have enemies that are ancient and enemies that are modern, right? And it's as if this is the doing of an ancient enemy. Yeah, this kind of concept, right? And the same thing appears for friends as well, you know what I mean? But for him, he was saying it that way to the, you know, old men of Athens in the court. And so Socrates, he says that every moment in my life there has been an inner oracle. So this idea of the logos in ancient Greece, that there was an inner guiding voice that had made this concept. the logos. So the logos to Socrates was the inner oracle, and the inner oracle would tell him. The inner oracle would tell him to step into where to step in. That means it's like the oracle would interfere and tell him not to go into this room or don't go there. Or the logos was in his inner realms, was there with him, right? As the inner oracle to Socrates. So Socrates says all of this, like in the narrative, through Plato's eyes. And so what happens is he's sentenced to drink this poison, and it's this weird poison that makes the feet numb, and it goes up to the body, right? And so what happens is Socrates is there, and the people are there, and eventually there's this guy who's hidden the poison, right? And Socrates just knows who this guy is. Now, so many philosophers have been like, how did Socrates know? And I'd be like, probably because Socrates knew everybody in the room except that guy. You know? And so, anyways, there's this, Socrates is giving this speech, and then he says to this guy, give me the poison, like as if he's no longer waiting for his mortality. He's saying his mortality is waiting for him. And that, as if he has lived his proper human life, you know? So Socrates there says something very important. This is like basic for philosopher, I would say, people interested in philosophy to know. Socrates says, and I'll say to the best I can remember, he says something in the lines of, as if don't fear. He's saying, I will either go somewhere where there is no Socrates. And every atheist is like, you got that straight, you know? So like, this is what Socrates said. And then he said, or I would go to somewhere where all the questions I have asked and wondered about in this life, I will get their answers. I will see their answers. That means it's like, what's suffering? It's a giant problem, and we're trying to solve it, you know, and we're going towards it. You know, that's the honor of the mind, something to see here, you know, even though emptiness is everywhere with it. So there is no Socrates, and then it's somewhere where it's eternal. So I'm gonna now unpause the story for Archimedes. And this is where the Roman soldier actually doesn't let Archimedes finish, and he kills Archimedes. And when Archimedes dies, it was as if he went to the second place where Plato said Archimedes solved the problem, but not in this dimension. One last story, which is from the disciple of Buddha named Subhuti. This kind of very wise, able student of Buddha. He goes and sits under this tree, and then his eyes are closed. He's in this blissful meditation, and suddenly he hears this voice from the sky. He knows it's from the sky. And the voice says, thank you for your discourse on emptiness. And Subhuti is just sitting by a tree trying to meditate like Buddha. And Subhuti is like, and suddenly Subhuti realizes, as the story goes, those are the voice of the gods, right? The voice of the truth, of the nature of the realm. And so Subhuti suddenly freaks out, and he's like, I didn't give a discourse on emptiness. You know, and the gods suddenly say, you didn't give a discourse on emptiness. We didn't hear a discourse on emptiness. That is true emptiness. So it could be said that the materialist is the peak. Materialism is the peak of immateriality, and immateriality is the peak of materiality. That means it's as if like the language of spirituality, I mean, philosophy is different, but the language of spirituality, it needs events. That means, and it's as if it's like it's either waiting for miracles or being the miracle. That means, that's it. Anyways, nature is chilling, and time is power attention pilots. And to pilot consciously, that's the 4.5 billion year old update. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful for those interested. I'll be on Discord. That was